Hillary Clinton, she questioned the election results of 2016.
In a little bit of a different way, though.
No.
It was definitely different.
She actually questioned the outcome.
Hillary Clinton conceded the election the next day, the day after the election. You don't see how that's different than Donald Trump spending not only months, but years after the election, undermining every institution.
Tell me an institution he undermined. Every institution? Every institution?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you trust Bill Barr?
No.
Do you trust the DOJ?
No.
Do you trust the FBI?
No.
So these are the institutions he's been undermining.
Well, they should be undermined. The FBI was lying in front of Congress.
In a moment, I'm going to show you a string of similarly facepalm-worthy things being said out of conservatives' mouths, out of MAGA people's mouths. And I will conclude this video with an event from back in 1938 that very well might have been the blueprint for all of this, for this exact kind of manipulation and overreaction and misunderstanding of the facts. Before we get into it, though, just this very cowboy hat wearing man's cognitive dissonance is mind-blowing, is it not?
No.
It was definitely different.
She actually questioned the outcome.
Hillary Clinton questioned the election too, but you realize conceding the next day is different than continuing to not concede and undermine all of our institutions, right? I mean, look at this guy's face. Also, side note, just cut the nose hair. Please cut the nose hair. Not what I need to be focusing on, but it's hard not to. I hope you understand.
Make America great again. It's been his mantra since he's run in 2015. What does that mean? What is again? When was America great?
Well, that question right there says everything that I need to know about you, that you don't really think America was ever great at any time. I think America was great. The spirit, the whole purpose for America was about the American spirit, coming here and making something for yourself and having the opportunity to do that for yourself, to work hard. And that's what America is all about. So the people that hate America will always say, well, when was it ever great? It's just not a very good attitude to have, in my opinion.
And when was that lost in your estimation?
I think a lot of it was lost when the Federal Reserve took over the money system. We need to go back to a gold and silver-backed system where currency it counts.
So apparently you're not allowed to work hard and climb in this country anymore, according to this woman with Trump in the largest font ever made on a hat or even to be seen from outer space. It's quite intense, but at least that's a new one. Usually you don't hear that answer when you ask MAGA people when America was great again. Usually it's tinged with an incredible amount of racism, kind of like this guy.
I'd like to get back like it was in the 60s.
Before all the civil rights stuff?
Before all the civil rights stuff.
So you would like to see things go back to before the civil rights movement?
Oh, yes. You know, where people have their freedom in this country.
Well, certain groups didn't have as much at the time, right?
Right. They didn't have as much at the time. But we still got to get back where this country stands up for this country.
Yes, we certainly do have to get back where this country stands up for this country. And we must get back to the time, according to this very white man, before the civil rights movement, when people had freedom, except people who didn't have freedom and were treated far worse than even second-class citizens. But it was great for this guy.
Oh, yes.
Because he had the same level of freedom he has now, but also didn't have to respect minorities back then, which was really great for him, apparently. I mean, that man legit thinks that America is just for white people. That's all it should ever serve. Much like this next person thinks America is just for Christians.
You have to swear on a Bible to be an elected official in the United States of America. He alleges that a Muslim cannot do that ethically, swearing on the Bible.
You don't actually have to swear on a Christian Bible. You can swear on anything, really. I don't know if you knew that. You can swear on a Jewish Bible.
Oh, no,
I swore
on the Bible. I've done it 3 times.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've picked a Bible, but the law is not that you have to swear on a Christian Bible. That is not the law. You don't know that? All right, Ted Crockett was
I don't know. I know that Donald Trump did it when we made him president.
Because he's Christian and he picked it. That's what he wanted to swear in on.
I mean, you don't even have to prove these people are stupid. You see it all over their faces. This man's response to, you don't actually have to choose a Christian Bible, was the very witty, way to come back with it. But Donald Trump did something. Yeah, so you and Donald Trump both did a thing. How proud you must be. So what am I getting at here? Conservatives' detachment from reality is a direct result of our country's abandonment of legitimate news media, which we've replaced with profit-driven, very, very fake news media instead. Complete profit interested, without any sort of moral backing news media. We live in a country where people can choose what news they want to hear and then only watch that specific news. And if it doesn't fit their political ideology, they can go la 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 until they find a different news outlet that does. But that is not how news is supposed to work. News is supposed to be based with objective truth, and that sort of being the flagship of what it is. Even worse than that is, over the years, outlets like Fox News have developed this strategy of preying on people's fears to maximize viewership. So it's not only not accurate, but it's also very, very fear-based to scare you into your belief system. That's why you always hear them talking about the border crisis and immigrants are invading the country and stealing the jobs of hardworking American citizens, when no immigrants ever stolen your job, most likely. And it's possible that the blueprint that I mentioned at the top of this video goes all the way back to 1938, when it may have been unintentionally created during the War of the Worlds radio drama. I mean, if you know the story, during the broadcast, listeners were accidentally misled to believe a Martian invasion was underway. We were being literally attacked by aliens from the sky, not the ones I think are coming over the border. And it caused widespread panic. Orson Welles was such a good actor that this fear spread, stemming from the realistic and immersive nature of the broadcast, as well as a lack of clear disclaimers. It sounded exactly like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I on? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmer's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk and as long as I can see. More state police have arrived. They're drawing up a cordon in front of the pit. It means... Wait a minute, something's happening. A humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Lord, they're turning into flames. Oh, the whole field's caught up by the woods, the barns, the gas tanks of the automobiles spreading everywhere. It's coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
You see, that broadcast and the panic it caused illustrates the intense power that media has on people and how easily information can evoke such strong emotional responses, shaping public perceptions and highlighting the significant responsibility that media outlets then have to ensure accurate and responsible communications. Don't worry, they're not listening. Unfortunately, outlets like Fox News have no interest in maintaining that responsibility, and so our political climate and elections are shaped by their broadcasts. When you have organizations that only care about money, only care about profits, let their morals be damned, let the facts that they know to be true be damned, as we saw in the Dominion lawsuit, that they were intentionally telling their audience enormous facts relevant to the future of our nation that they knew to be not true. Well, then we've sold the country down the river. And what do we have left? Well, I would tell you, but do you hear that? There's aliens coming. I gotta go. I'm Ben Glebe for Rebel HQ. Follow me on Instagram for lots more.
Yeah. There's a frigging blizzard, and we're doing this to stop global warming. Does the governor have an EV?
I hate that my job involves me having to cover Jesse Waters, but here we are. So this was the day before the fires escalated in LA. This was the day before being climate change deniers on Fox News. Climate change isn't real, but it's destroying the planet, and Los Angeles is on fire, but it's really not climate change, and how dare we try to do something about it, even though it's burning down most of Los Angeles. But you know what we can blame this on? You know how we can angle this? It's DEI. That's the problem.
And now you have no water in the fire hydrants, and people are using garden hoses. I saw a guy pouring milk onto his fire. It's so unacceptable, and it's DEI, and it's also corruption. The last 3 people that ran this utility in LA, one was a DEI hire, First Native American. She was fired because she was such an idiot. Bass fired her. The other was caught taking bribes. He's in prison. And then the other one lost $40 million. So while all these people are focused on pronouns and fish you can't eat and, scrubbing white people from the fire department, they can't even focus on water and fire and human life.
God, you hire one black lesbian and suddenly white people and straight people no longer exist. Where did they go? You have one person go, oh, actually, I prefer they, them pronouns, and oh my God, my pronouns are USA. Listen, corruption exists, and it exists on both sides. And it has nothing to do with hiring a black person or a gay person to do a job. It has nothing to do with English grammar. They're not related. And you're right, corruption should be taken out, which is why you should probably be taken out of business, Jesse Waters. It's not global warming. It's black lesbians. How dare they exist and get jobs and work for income so they can pay their bills like the rest of us? As a lesbian, I can confirm that this is part of the gay agenda. We wanted to infiltrate fire departments. Listen, if I don't turn it into a joke and a bit, it's just scary and sad. The world is literally burning. Our world is literally burning, and we have people denying climate change on national television. And lots of people are listening and drinking the Kool-Aid. And I have examples that I'm going to mention in just a minute from across the globe that I guarantee you haven't heard of because our mainstream media sucks so hard and is so bad.
But to Greg and Jesse's points about, this is because of DEI or what we need is practical solutions, there is so much bad information swirling around about the main players involved in this, like the fire chief who's been called a DEI hire. I take her resume any day. 24-year vet, paramedic, engineer, fire inspector, captain, battalion chief, fire marshal, deputy chief. I don't know.
But you're proving my point.
No, I'm not proving your point.
Yes, you are. You're proving it because DEI makes everybody suspect. That is the problem. And you guys paraded it around. So now you put it in people's heads.
No, you put it in people's heads.
How? I can back DEI.
My girl Jessica coming in, calling it out for what it is. You see how DEI can literally eradicate any argument for how qualified that person. If the more qualified that person is, the more you're proving my point. See, she's been DE hired all over the place. Like, no, she's just qualified to do her job. No, you're putting it into people's heads. No, you're putting it in people's. No one thought about DEI until you mentioned it. You had to search for it and be like, oh, by the way, the fire chief trying to handle this is a black lesbian, DEI hire, bad at her job. No one was thinking that. You put it in people's heads. She was just a person who happened to be black and happened to be gay, and she was qualified for her job. Guess what? There are more of them. There are lesbians that exist in all kinds of jobs, and they're not DEI hires. You just happen to exist, and you have to have a job, and you end up in lots of different places because it doesn't matter. Yes, there have always been natural disasters. Yes, there have always been fires, but climate change is making it worse. That is a scientific fact. The hotter we get, and extreme heat waves are 5 times more likely these days than they were 150 years ago, the more the land dries out. Those two in combination equal more fires, harder fires to put out. And the more forest fires happen, the more carbon they emit, which leads to more global warming, and it's an awful cycle that keeps perpetuating itself. And we are actively making that cycle worse and speeding it up. We have been experiencing the horrible destruction of these massive LA wildfires. But did you know that we affect with our behavior, and by we, I mean massive corporations, mostly operating out of the US, pumping oil into the ocean and garbage into the atmosphere, that we're affecting the entire planet? The whole planet is being affected by this, not just the US. Did you know that this past summer, South America and Africa were both majorly on fire? Here is NASA's fire map showing the fires this summer. As I live out west in the United States, I remember there being lots of fires out here. It was way worse in South America, and it was way worse in Africa. This was this summer. 6% of Angela burned in a week. This is my job. I work in news, and I didn't know about this until last month. What, 6 months later? I heard that Africa was literally on fire. Look at that map. But that is acknowledging larger effects, global effects of climate change. And they're not being covered because they acknowledge massive trends in climate change. And big businesses who are polluting the crap out of our earth don't want this stuff in the news because then something might have to be done about it. And who cares if the world is burning when the top 0.01% of humanity wants to increase their record profits? According to the Atmosphere Monitoring Service, 2024 experienced historic, not record, historic carbon emissions for the summer fire season in 2024. And the smartest thing that the political far right ever did was convince its base not to trust science. Because science has all the answers, science has all the facts that they don't want you to know, because they don't want to have to do something about it, because they want to keep burning the world to make profit. That's the very simple answer. This is a massive global issue, and the places in South America and in Africa that were absolutely decimated by these fires are going to have an unbelievably hard time recovering, and you didn't even hear about it. They were devastated. They were way worse than the LA fires that we just had and are still dealing with. And you didn't even hear about it. That should tell you something. They are burning your planet for profit, and they've convinced you that it's cool because it's owning the libs or whatever. Guess what? You live here too. It's your planet too. We all live on the same planet. And when it becomes unbearably hot or unbearably cold, or when your house is destroyed by a hurricane or another tornado or a wildfire that we can't control because there's just so many of them and they're burning so hot now, I guess that'll own the libs too.